microbrewery, meadery, it's not in there. At least not that I found.
Good evening, everybody. If you would, come on in and find your seats, and we're going to get this meeting called to order and started. It's good to see everybody.
I've seen that.
Oh, that's where I saw it.
It says they've done it, but I haven't seen it.
That's in the minutes from the last meeting.
All right. Good evening and welcome to the September 8, 2025 meeting of the Tupelo Planning Committee. Please take a moment to silence your cell phones. At this time, please rise for the invocation given by Pam Hadley, to be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Mark Williams.
May we have our heads, please. Our Father in heaven, dear Lord, we just come thanking you, Lord, just for your many blessings, Lord, just for your grace and your mercy, Lord, just following us as we go every day, Lord. We pray, Lord, we know that you are a God of order, Lord. We pray that everything will be done decently in order. We pray, Lord, that everything we do, Lord, will be a reflection of you, Lord, and that we will do what is best for our communities. Dear Lord, we just thank you for all that you are doing for us. We just pray that you'll just help us to be a beacon of light for others to see. We pray this prayer in your Son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Face the flag, salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. The Tupelo Planning Committee is a volunteer group appointed by the mayor and city council. We do not receive compensation and do it as a community service. The committee spends a lot of time and our own funds studying and researching the applications and visiting the sites that are on our agenda each month. We ask that you remember that we do not take our positions lightly on any application. Our decisions are based on facts as they are presented and with regard to the regulations set forth in the city code. The Planning Committee may impose conditions on approvals of a request as it deems necessary to mitigate potential threats, hazards, or problems, or bring a nonconformity into compliance to the extent necessary to protect the rights and interests of nearby property owners and the general public. At this time, I would like the staff and committee members to introduce themselves.
Tanner Newman, Director of Development Services.
Mark Williams.
Aaron Washington.
Pam Hadley.
Victor Fleitas.
Lindsay Leak.
Leslie Mart.
Patty Thompson.
Scott Davis.
Mandolin Chardon, zoning technician.
At this time on our agenda, we are going to review the minutes of the last meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes of the last meeting? Are there any additions or corrections?
I move we accept.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. All in favor of approving the minutes from last meeting? It is unanimous. The minutes are approved. Next agenda item, report on last council actions. We had a matter, Flex VAR 25-03. The application for that matter was withdrawn today. If the city would like to give the Planning Committee an update on that matter, it would be appreciated.
Mr. Chairman, this matter, or the matter that led to this variance request, has been resolved, and the applicant has requested to withdraw the application. So it ended well.
Thank you, Mr. Newman. My guess is everything worked out.
It all worked out. Very good.
Glad to hear. Our next agenda item, report on last council actions. Mr. Newman, do you have anything to report on the city council's actions from our last meeting?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the City Council, since that last meeting, they have approved the Park Hill Overlay Residential District, and also Major Subdivision 25-02 was approved. They did send back a few of the other text amendment items that we will discuss later this evening for further review.
Thank you, Mr. Newman. We are now ready to start our agenda. There are 4 items on our agenda tonight. As we work through these items, if you are here In order to comment on an application, please, when you are asked, move to the podium, speak into the microphone, and state your name and address before offering comment. The first item on our agenda is RZ 25-01. This is a request to rezone 12.8 acres between McCullough Boulevard and Pecan Grove Road from mixed-use commercial corridor to low-density residential. Mr. Newman and Mr. Faulkner, to whoever is responsible for answering this question, have the surrounding property owners been notified?
Yes, they have.
All right, and were there any responses?
Quite a few.
All right, I see we have a nearly packed house today, so I imagine we have a few. At this time, will the applicant or a representative of the applicant please come to the podium, state your name, address, and present your request to the committee?
I guess this is on, huh?
Yes, sir.
Good. I'm Dr. Max Hutchinson, and I have filed this request to rezone this 12.8 acres from the mixed-use commercial to residential. It is a piece of property that is pretty well landlocked. It does not have any essential frontage on a major street, so it really doesn't lend itself well to commercial development. But it is a beautiful piece of property that lends itself very well to a large lot subdivision development, which would be very compatible with the adjacent property. Do you want me to address just the rezoning application at this time?
I think at this time we should simply stick to the rezoning application, sir, if you have any other remarks to make.
That's it. That there is essentially no frontage on McCullough. There is a tributary of Town Creek that's a large drainage ditch that prevents access on the west side of the property. The Natchez Trace right-of-way bounds it on the east side, and our subdivision bounds it on the north side. So there's very little access for commercial development. It is again very easily accessed for development as a residential property. So,
Thank you, sir. If you would, just in case there's any questions from the members of the committee. Do any members of the committee have any questions for the applicant right now? I have a question, sir. I know you mentioned that obviously because of the particular aspects of this property, it is not readily feasible for commercial development, but assuming that it remained as MUCC, could there be commercial use made of it on that property?
the access would have to be from the west side across the drainage ditch, which poses a problem because of the expense of a concrete culvert to cross that.
The expense would lessen its feasibility.
I'm sorry?
The expense of a culvert
Yes.
bridge would reduce the feasibility.
Limits that feasibility, yes.
But it doesn't zero it out.
Does not zero it out, I would say, but it does limit that access. And there are no plans to develop the west side of that property. So there is limited access from the standpoint of any development on the west side of that drainage ditch at this point in time.
Thank you, sir. Does anybody else have any questions? Thank you, Doctor. We will now open the public portion of the hearing for this application. Please try to hold your comments to a maximum of 5 minutes. Is there anyone here who would like to speak for or against the application? If you would, sir, please.
You might want to just note that this is only for the rezoning.
Yes. And please understand that that what we are discussing and limiting the conversation to at this point is strictly the issue of rezoning the property from mixed-use commercial corridor to low-density residential. This is the matter that we're taking up presently. Thank you, sir. If you would, just give your name and address. And
Thank you, guys, for
What
your
I'm
ti-
going to do is, I'm accustomed to doing this from the day job. I've got a timer here, I've set to 5 minutes, and what I'll do is, as you get close to the end, I may raise my finger just to let you know, so you could wrap up your remarks.
So I'll be easy.
You're welcome to use it as much or as little as you please, sir.
Thank you, and thank you all for your time. My name is Bradley Dixon. I reside at 1641 Pecan Grove. And I'm the president of the Homeowners Association, and it's been an eventful task the last few weeks. We have 84 concerned citizens in our neighborhood and the surrounding neighborhoods, basically on Mount Vernon Road, that are concerned about this. And I would hope you would let us talk about traffic safety, road infrastructure, water and drainage, as this property adjoins ours and as the road would enter from our neighborhood. And I would like to just introduce Ryan Russell to talk about the first concern we have, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine.
Mr. Chairman, would ask that the speakers sign in their name and
Yes,
address.
I'm sorry, yes, if you have a sign in there, please go ahead and sign in.
I'm not going to be able to read that.
Just so you know, Doc, you got a fresh 5 minutes.
That's what I was gonna say. I don't want Bradley to mess up
No,
any of my
no,
time.
no, no, you get a fresh 5, so don't worry about it.
All right, what I was going,
Go ahead and
Oh, I'm
introduce
sorry.
yourself and give your address. Sorry, Doc.
made me nervous. All right, I'm Ryan Russell. I reside at 1912 Pecan Grove. And what I wanted to bring to everyone's attention is what I'm most concerned about is the traffic increase and the safety of our neighborhood with this zoning change and the way it would come into our neighborhood. This has always been a dead end street with one entrance in, one entrance out. If y'all ever been through there, it's pretty hard to get in and out of there in the mornings. You got to look 2 or 3 times to the north and to the south to look on there. It would be more congested, obviously, if we rezone, and obviously a commercial wouldn't dump into our neighborhood and be on our street. It would come out to another place. So the congestion would also slow emergency response vehicles, ambulances, fire trucks. Our population, our neighborhood is aging, so ambulances, we would like them to be able to get in there and out of there in time. Most concerning to us is the construction and residential traffic must pass through over half of our neighborhood, but also passes right in front of the Montessori school right there on Mount Vernon. If you go past there, they're increasing their size. I think they're almost doubling it. I think they'll go up to 6th grade now, so there's going to be a lot of traffic. If you go down through there in the mornings, anywhere between 6:30 and 8:30, you can't hardly get down there. That traffic light's slow. It'll be backed up, 10 cars, and so you have to wait through there. People are trying to turn from the other direction, so it's really, if we have that many more houses coming through our neighborhood with the existing structures that are coming in, it's going to make it very hard, very difficult, and just safety of the children walking in and out daily. If you think about, if we change it and let residential come in, it's plotted for 11 houses. If we think about 2 to 4 cars per household nowadays, but that didn't count the mail people, UPS, FedEx, Amazon, lawn maintenance, the rest of the construction past the 2-year interval that they're going to be able to use the construction entrance across the ditch. It's going to easily increase traffic by 55 to 100 cars or more, depending on, Walmart deliveries and everything else. If you live in the neighborhood, we think that you should slow down a little bit and prepare, for kids. You know where kids and grandkids are. If you don't live in the neighborhood, if you're making 10 deliveries, you're not going to follow the same traffic and safety as you would. So if you got all these extra cars coming in, and as of now, me and Chris are the ones that mow our own yard, so lawn maintenance and everybody else coming in. So there's a constant flow of traffic. I've got 2 young kids that are out in the yard a lot. My concern, other people's grandkids, I'm just concerned about the traffic. Obviously, the Montessori school, and like I said, just the congestion. Also, the road infrastructure. Everybody's always want to save tax dollars, especially in Tupelo. Our street was repaved only 14 months ago at the taxpayer expense. I know there's a two-year construction. If anybody's tried to get anything constructed, there's not going to be able to do 11 houses in 2 years, even if you sold the lots before you pre-built. So there's going to be heavy construction trucks and constant traffic that will quickly destroy this investment that the city has made. Also, as soon as this is turned over, the city is going to be, as you know, responsible for the long term. Will bear the repeated maintenance cost caused by this development. And like I said, if you haven't been by there, I suggest if you would like to see the site, just come by there in the morning or the evening when the school gets out. It's a racetrack on the weekends through there. You got to look. You can't go out there without looking twice, or you'll get hit through there. And if we increase this number of cars, people rushing to get out onto Mount Vernon or get back in, I just think it's going to be a danger to my children, the Montessori school, people's grandchildren. I had to slow down the other day for somebody's grandchildren coming out. So I just wish y'all would please consider the safety of our children. I know these people want to develop it, but and I hope that nobody's willing to endanger the safety of our children and the Montessori school children just to have this development. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Melinda McElroy,
Yes, ma'am.
and I live at 1838. Oh,
Have you
pardon
been
me.
able to sign in yet, Ms.
Oh, I
McElroy?
haven't. Was this it?
Yes,
Sorry.
ma'am. I'm sorry.
I can sign and talk.
However you prefer.
Yes, sir. I live at 1838 Pecan Grove. And I moved to this neighborhood for 2 reasons. Excuse me. I lived outside of the neighborhood and became a widow and wanted to move into town to get closer to my sisters and my brother who lives at Shannon. And I chose Pecan Grove for 2 reasons. The first was that it is a cul-de-sac, and I'm helping my sister raise a child she adopted from the Children's Mansion who also has a child who's 3 years old. So the mother has no support but us. So I have this little 3-year-old every day, and my charge is to get her to daycare. And the second reason I chose this street is because there was no construction. And that was a critical piece of why I actually moved. I had 2 dust collector machines in my house where I lived due to the constant construction. And while, that can be a positive, it can also be a negative. And the particular road subdivision where I lived only had 1 entry. And that proved to be an issue. Every dump truck, every road grader came across my road. And to this day, from the original date that subdivision was developed, the road has never been repaved. And I understand that because it's just going to be torn up again. It's just not feasible. And when I bought my house, I was so interested in the particular location being situated for kind of between both of my sisters. And I bought the house as is. And it was kind of like the top of the bubble, which meant I got the most for my house, but I also had to pay the most for this house. And the lady I bought it from was 97 years old and living in a nursing home. So I could expect there were going to be a few, mysteries. But the backyard was beautifully landscaped and green. But since the time that I bought it, which was say 4 years ago, I have 1/3 of my backyard is bald. And the reason is the runoff that we get on our street. It's just, I know it's a fact of life, but we get runoff currently that goes into the town creek, which is the same creek that runs through this new property proposed addition. This particular runoff is so severe that, and I know we have, I think that we can't say this is a one-time event with climate change and such. I think it's the world that we live in now. We have to accept it. And so I accept this, but my backyard cannot drain into Town Creek because it is so full. Town Creek washes back into my yard. So as I was, and my neighbors on the left side of me, because I border the creek, my neighbors on the left side of me have the same issue, and their water just comes on down, and it comes from Forest Park, it comes from Bordeaux. We are just apparently, I guess, the lower lying land. Well, when I was getting signatures for our petition, I was advised by my neighbor that backs up to me, who I will say his name, y'all may know him, Neil McCoy. The neighbor across from him, Jay Weir, informed me that they had just had a extra sized culvert placed into Mr. McCoy's yard because of the whitewash that was coming toward me into Town Creek. And they had decided, because he had the balding issue, and we just have a drainage problem. And since that time that this proposed development property has started to be graded, there are trees that are gone, that's added to the water. Across from me is my neighbors, the Hills, and their property line borders the creek as well, and their tributaries from where the land has eroded on that side, draining into Town Creek. And I just want to say that we need someone to either get out there and look at this now for us, for our own well-being, but at the same time, please consider seriously delaying this project, because we've got serious problems in our neighborhood right now regarding the drainage.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
I dropped the ball with Dr. Russell. Does anyone have any questions for our speaker?
They're scared to ask. I might talk some more. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Since I dropped the ball, does anybody have any questions they want to ask of Dr. Ryan Russell, our last speaker?
No.
All right.
We take the sign-in sheet? Yep. All right,
Thank you, sir.
absolutely. Thank you, members of the committee. My name is Bo Hill. I live across the street from Miss Melinda at 1837 Pecan Grove. And, like her, we have experienced lots of drainage issues. As a matter of fact, I actually have some videos of the storm drains up above us actually not catching any of the water. They just run right past the storm drains and come down into our yard, and like Miss Melinda said, just kind of erode our side of the yard. I've called the city a few times to get them fixed, and somebody said that they could come fix it, but so far nobody's come out. And, and so I'll just, reiterate Miss Melinda's position there that, before more water and more things get, bulldozed, we need to fix this water issue. And that kind of brings up another point that I wanted to discuss tonight, and that was more or less regarding environmental and procedural concerns. Frankly, when the work began on this site, no permits have even been issued, right? So we've had land on this site that has been cleared without any proper approval. And when the city was told, they instructed the developer to stop, and the work continued. to the point where our city engineer actually had to come out and issue a formal stop work order on August 29th. And, so this, it raises lots of concerns for me, number one being the proper process. Right? I'm assuming that permitting is in place to ensure that projects move forward responsibly. Right? When these work begins without proper approvals, right, we're essentially bypassing the system that we're here tonight to discuss. Right? And, the other thing is that, it takes away the consistency, right? Homeowners and builders, right, we're expected to follow the rules. Right? It's important that, we're all held to the same standards. And, like Ms. Melinda said, the impact of the tree removal and the land disturbance, without any review, right, basically is worsening the erosion and the drainage and the runoff issues, right, that we're already having. And, I don't know if any drainage studies have been done or anything like that, but I would highly employ somebody, get one of those done before any of this is moved forward. And lastly, right, us as residents, right, we rely on you guys in the city, right, to ensure that development is done, fairly and responsibly. And, I share these not really just to single out any single party, but really to emphasize the importance of, following procedures, that are designed to protect both, us as the residents, developers, and, the city processes itself. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Hill? Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Okay, my name is Jackie Newell. I live at 1792 Pecan Grove Drive. The first thing I'd like to say is I believe this property in question attaches to McCullough. And Max just said there wasn't another way, but it does attach to McCullough Boulevard. And if we were going to zone it commercially, somebody could come off of there to do their construction. We purchased our lot, or my husband did, in the mid-90s, and we built and moved into our home in 1999. We were told that the lot across the street from us would not be developed because it was low, and so there was going to be no water or sewer, and it would remain a green space. For 26 years, it has been. The people in our neighborhood purchased on that street because of the way it is. And if there was commercial property on the property in question, that's not our street. It would come off somewhere else. For 26 years, like I said, it's been a green space. And then on April 12th of 24, we got an email from Dr. Max Hutchinson saying that he would like to change the lot across the street from us to build to sell as a lot to build a home. And so we voted for that as a neighborhood. He said it required neighborhood current homeowners to approve the change. So we voted for that. We all voted yes. And he says in his email that he would change the plat. So that is the lot in question that is now being discussed as an entrance to this property that we voted as a neighborhood to make it a home lot. Well, sometime later there was clearing on that lot. And so we thought somebody bought it to build a home. And so then May 19th of 25, we got an email from Dr. Hutchinson about an official HOA meeting. And it had an agenda, election of a new president, election of a new secretary treasurer, and discussion of traffic speed limit, as well as this proposed addition to our neighborhood. During that official HOA meeting, we voted, and we voted no. And so he said he had already put in the rezoning application. So he told us, because we voted no, that he would withdraw it. And he did. The following day, he withdrew that. And so now here we are again. And so I'm thinking our neighborhood has voted twice things that would prevent this property from coming through our neighborhood. And I love Max. He's been my neighbor for 26 years. But I just would like to say there's a conflict of interest between he was the president of our HOA as well as the developer of this property. And twice we voted as a neighborhood things that would stop that from coming through. If it wanted to change, if it wanted to be commercial or residential, but it's coming off McCullough, that's different. That's not coming through our neighborhood. And we just would like to ask you not to let it come through our neighborhood.
Thank you, Ms. Newell. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Newell? Thank you, ma'am.
It may take me a minute to sign this. My hand shakes pretty bad.
Understood, sir. We're here for the duration.
Yes. You don't have to start that clock either.
No, I wait until everybody at least gets their name and address out.
Yeah. I'm Jim Spencer. Me and Brenda, we live at 1684 Pecan Grove. We've been there for as long as that subdivision's been there. We've got a great neighborhood. Probably the greatest neighborhood in Tupelo as far as I'm concerned. Best place I've ever lived, and I've lived in, my wife sold several of our houses, and I've lived in a lot of different neighborhoods. Got good neighbors, great neighbors, and I want to keep it that way. I really do. My question would be for you guys, and for me in particular, and I would, maybe for some other people here, are you at some day going to approve somebody to develop that property? And in my opinion, whether it's retail or whether it's residential, I would want Max Hutchison to do the development because he's got a vested interest and he cares and he's going to do it right. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spencer.
My name is Scott Eves. I live at 1720 Pecan Grove, Tupelo. Here today to talk a little bit about what everybody else has already talked about. You know, we're here to formally express and oppose this development. You know, we understand the need for growth. As an HOA person, and we've got other representatives that were in other neighborhoods before, I'm not against growth. I'm not against the development of any neighborhood. Actually, I'm in the blueprint business. I love growth. So, but this particular situation is a lot different than probably you're going to see in most proposed developments that come before you. It's got a long story behind it, but regard to that, there's key differences here. One thing that they've talked about, and I'll just keep a point on it again, is increased traffic, negative impact on the property values. We don't know what's going to happen there. Also, some environmental issues that we've talked about. Incompatibility zoning situations, and we also have some noise issues that we've talked about. We have got a situation on Mount Vernon Road that is high volume of traffic. We've got the Montessori school there that's an issue as well. We've spent a lot of time as a HOA. We really love our neighborhood. We love our neighbors. We love Max. We've had lots and lots of conversations with the developer. We have been unable to come to an agreement. We're not quite understanding why this neighborhood has to come down our street. Last year, the exact property was developed by, or had a proposed developed by, I believe it was the Waters family, Rusty Waters and his father. It was approved by this council. It was also approved by the city council, and there's not one person in our neighborhood that opposed it because the entrance was going up to Mount Vernon Road. There was no problem then creating that neighborhood of over 30-something houses. There was no objections by anybody in this room that I'm aware of. So we're not against development. We're not against growth. Our concern is why is it coming down our street? It doesn't have to. I think you've listened to most of us here today. Everyone's talked about different certain issues. There are people here, there are people on our street that don't have an opportunity to speak over the last few months that aren't able to because they're going through family issues, family traumas. So some of us are here today to represent them as well. And I won't get into those personal things. It's actually one of the reasons I'm here as well. And I think most of these guys have made the key points. So we're just here to hopefully consider, push forward some type of option. We're not, again, some kind of option that can push forward and allow the neighborhood to go forward. Why? There's access on Mount Vernon. There's access on McCullough. It's a commercial property currently. It's a great commercial property, actually. I've actually looked at it. I've looked at this property over the years for development. The front right corner of that property, the corner of McCullough and Mount Vernon, is a great 3 acres that currently is a great piece of commercial property. I'm not sure why. Where the other piece of property is Max is not a wonderful piece. I'm not real understanding that. But there are options here. And we're here, or I'm here specifically to ask that this not be zoned residential. We don't currently see the value in it. And some of our biggest concerns have been expressed here, especially with the traffic flow, and that's really the major issue. I have spoken directly with today and last week with many of our neighbors and other down the street from us in Mount Vernon. We actually have representation from 2 other streets next to us that are here. I've got a letter, and I've also spoken with the Montessori school representative. They are are opposed to it, very opposed to it. They're concerned about the traffic. If anyone's ever had an opportunity to go out there in the mornings or the afternoons, it is it's dangerous. I'll just leave it at that. I'll leave it at that. It's dangerous, and there would be more individuals here if we could have had some more time to do that. But regardless, thank you for your time, and we're asking that this be rejected. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone have any questions for our speaker? Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to comment on the application? Going once, going twice? Yes, sir.
Could I respond to a couple? Yeah, I mean, but I'd like to invite the developer back up and respond.
Absolutely, sir. You were included. If anyone else, you're certainly entitled to a rebuttal.
I think a lot of the conversation is, rather than a discussion of rezoning, we're talking about the development of the property. So I won't get into that until we're ready to talk about the application for the subdivision development. But in terms of the commercial traffic coming out on to Mount Vernon Road, it will create another intersection very close to McCullough Boulevard, which is really going to complicate the traffic on on Mount Vernon Road, more so than routing it through our subdivision because it's further distant from the intersection at McCullough. The other issue is that if you create a commercial development, then you really will have a lot more traffic entering into Mount Vernon Road, which will further complicate the traffic issues that have already been mentioned on Mount Vernon Road. So I think, again, I withdrew the application specifically to investigate the possibility of developing this subdivision in a way other than coming into our street, Pecan Grove. And it simply is not practical from a financial standpoint. It's not practical from a traffic flow standpoint. and it's not, I don't own the property, so I don't have any way of routing that subdivision out to Mount Vernon through the west side of that property that originally was the Campbell property and subsequently the Waterer property. So I don't have any way of developing that. It just wasn't feasible. To cross that drainage ditch is going to require quite an expense. The other issue that has been mentioned is the drainage issues. And Ms. McElroy mentioned that she had a problem with drainage in her yard, and also the other people in our neighborhood that have had trouble with drainage. We discovered that there was a massive tree that had been eroded and fallen into that tributary, that main ditch that drains our subdivision. And part of the preliminary work that we've been doing that they've mentioned was to gain access to remove that tree from that ditch. There were two other very large dead trees that were about to fall into the Hills yard, by the way, that we removed as well. And the other issue is a drainage issue through that green space that has been referred to. And in order to enhance that and to prevent the erosion that we were having problems with, eroding under the trees and causing the trees to fall, we had to create a new drainage way down through that. It actually improved the drainage through a part of that area, and it has to be stabilized with riprap. And to access that, we had to do some preliminary work in terms of dirt work. So I think we've addressed some of the drainage issues because of the obstruction to flow in that major ditch. And again, we've already looked into the possibility of developing this property by another access, and it's simply not practical and not feasible right now or in the foreseeable future. The access from McCullough that's been referred to is very, very limited. I'm not sure with the Corps of Engineers right-of-way that is that runs along that ditch, that there is actually, when we discussed it with the planning services, they did not feel like we had access from McCullough. Even if you did, you'd be creating a second intersection within 100 feet of the intersection between Mount Vernon Road and McCullough. So you'd have two intersections, actually three intersections if you count the Natchez Trace right away. Then we'd have another intersection in between that and the intersection to Mount Vernon Road. So I don't think the highway department would consider that for a minute. So anyway.
Thank you, sir. Any questions?
I do.
Yes.
Ms. Mark?
What's your intent to do with the part of your property that is not currently up for rezoning? Do you have some future plans for that land?
The part that's not up for rezoning is gonna wind up being green space as a part of this subdivision, if I understand you correctly.
We have a drawing here that has like pink hashed lines that indicates where you're requesting to be rezoned. And then there's this whole other section down here, the one that is at the corner of Mount Vernon and McCullough, that's not part of the zoning request. Am I looking at this correctly? Sure. So it's the pink area that, according to the thing,
Right.
the pink area is what's gonna be is
Yes.
requested to rezone. So you still have this land that will not be rezoned.
That's not my property. That's still, that belongs to the, that's adjacent to that event center.
So this is not your property
No,
here.
no.
This is just your property.
Right, that's right. As a matter of fact, because I don't own that property, I really don't have any way of developing an access to Mount Vernon Road.
So your property actually has no access on Mount Vernon Road.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you. So it says his ends right here. So that's the only.
Yes, sir. Dr. Russell, please come on up.
Ryan Russell again, 1912 Pecan Grove. I just wanted to speak to as far as the road goes. Yeah, I know we've said it, they've heard in the past from Dr. Max that putting that road in on McCullough Boulevard would be hard for a residential, but if anybody's ever been up and down McCullough Boulevard, which I'm sure y'all have, every commercial entrance right there touching it, Mount Vernon Chapel has 2 entrances right there. Every other commercial is, if you go from one end of Mount Vernon to the other, has access on McCullough Boulevard. So commercial that is zoned right now could easily make an entrance onto McCullough Boulevard. That would alleviate the traffic off of Mount Vernon. That would increase the safety of our children, of the Montessori school, and we would leave y'all alone and go back to our house and be happy and smiling. But I don't know of any commercial thing on McCullough, and correct me if I'm wrong, anybody, that any commercial thing dumps right on the into McCullough Boulevard. That's a busy commercial street. You know, I don't live on there. You know, I don't know any house. There's very few houses. I think Mount Vernon Chapel was one of the last houses that's owned, residential houses that's actually on McCullough Boulevard. So, if we leave it commercial like it's currently zoned, it can go right on to Mount Vernon. We can smile and be happy. The lot can stay. And I guess Dr. Max can plant wheat or something, but the road that's supposedly in there to be just to clean the ditch out, you could land a 747 on. It's as wide as from here to the back corner of there. It had probably 300 loads of dirt in there to level it out. The trees in question that took out, and I'm no engineer, but I grew up on catfish farms. I know how water flows in rice fields and farms. That was flowing up under those trees. Those trees were not blocking the actual flow. It's the size and the volume of water that goes in there. And if anybody's lived, I grew up in the Delta where we had to make things flow. In the hills, everything flows fast. If y'all seen when we get 4 or 5 inches of rain, every ditch in Tupelo fills up. This one is no different. So again, please leave it like it is. Let them go out Mount Vernon and they can build whatever they want to. And let it go out on McCullough Boulevard and they build whatever they want to over there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any questions?
No, Victor, I don't have a question, but I do know it's in our packet. There was a email submitted from the Natchez Trace to Tanner about access off McCullough Boulevard. And Tanner, would you comment of what the Natchez Trace and their restriction and their easement off of McCullough Boulevard?
Sure. So we did receive this email on Tuesday from the land resource manager with the Natchez Trace to inform us that the parkway boundary runs westward along McCullough Boulevard, past where the south subdivision property boundary line will be, and therefore no access to the subdivision could be constructed in this area from McCullough Boulevard. So that is directly from the Natchez Trace, not from the Highway Department, but due to its proximity to the access to the trace, there would not be enough room for an additional access point on McCullough.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mr. Newman. Right. This now closes the public portion of this application review. We are now open for committee discussion. Does the Department of Development Services have a perspective on this application?
Mr. Chairman, I would ask Mr. Faulkner to present staff analysis.
I'm Pat Faulkner. I'm working as a consultant for the city, and I've prepared the staff review of this application. I would like to make a distinction between some of the issues that have been discussed so far, and I understand it's all one project, but there are two sets of criteria here, one for rezoning and one for the development itself. A lot of the technicalities of engineering, of drainage, of streets and traffic and access, those are questions that properly belong to the application for subdivision approval. When you look at the question of whether to rezone the land, the issues are different. The issues are, is this the right use for this land? Is this the use that's best for the city overall? And is it rightly zoned now, or is it not correctly zoned now? And one point that does bear on that that's been mentioned is the access. And our understanding, the city engineer's conversation with the Department of Transportation, is they would not grant access to this property from McCullough because of its proximity to the other intersections. Just by having frontage does not grant them automatic access. And without access to McCullough Boulevard and without access even to Mount Vernon Boulevard, the property is not suitable for its current zoning. It will never be developed commercially. However, I would make the point that if somebody were to, say, buy out the property to the west and create a connection there, then they could come in and put a convenience store or whatever kind of business they want to on that commercially zoned property. So that's an issue. You know, it's a trade-off. Ideally, from one perspective, you might not want it developed at all, but sooner or later somebody may come along and develop it. So that's something else to consider. But the four criteria that we're required to look at are, is the proposed zoning compatible with the zoning around it? And this would be identical, same zoning, the same size lots, same uses would be allowed. Is it suitable for the current district? No, it is not. It cannot be used as commercial property. Third criterion is whether this change would improve the balance of uses in the city or meet a specific demand in the city. And what you're talking about here is, over time, our land that's available in zoning, or in commercial zoning or residential zoning, gets taken up. We don't have any more land, and so everything that's developed has to come out of that available inventory of land. So if you need residential development, it's got to come from some land that's zoned residential. And finally, is the city infrastructure available that would support the proposed zoning district, in which it is. It would actually be less infrastructure requirement for residential development than it would be for commercial development. So on that basis, our conclusion is that it does meet the requirements for approval as rezoning.
Thank you, Mr. Faulkner. If you would just hold on for a second. Do any members of the committee have any questions for Mr. Faulkner on the rezoning?
I have a question. So with it being zoned MUCC right now, and the frontage is on to McCullough, which is MUE and MUCC, if it's rezoned to residential, there's no frontage, there's no connection to any residential street unless you build the street.
Correct.
So would it be, I don't know how I'm trying to say this, but like the only way that it connects to any other resident, I mean, it wouldn't connect. The only way out would be onto, which you can't go to McCullough, but that's all commercial. There's no residential zoning on McCullough.
Okay.
So I guess my question is, would it not be landlocked in a way to zone this?
It
If
would
you're
be
just
up to-
looking at a rezoning without any way to get to it, like, I'm not. maybe
There
I'm
is
not making
property
sense.
that could create that connection.
You're saying because it's the MUCC, if we rezone that to be residential, there is no current access to that property
Right
with
now,
the street.
it's connected to McCullough, which is arguing on whether you can actually enter that way. And of course, I thought that this was all one piece, but apparently this is an old tax map, and so it's two separate parcels. But it has connection to adjacent MUCC property, but there's no way to connect it to the residential without building the road to it.
Well, then that's up to the developer to build the road. The land is there that would support that connection.
Because isn't that typical of any property that is residential? Somebody at some point has had to build a road to get to it.
What about the road that runs by Dr. Nance's office, that little gravel
It's not
road?
his
It's
property.
not his property.
That's that's what you're saying, that's
Yeah,
not
it's
your
not.
It's not
property.
his property.
But if you owned that property, you could put a road there,
If you have to
right?
build a bridge, it's expensive.
I saw the bridge, yeah, I saw the lumber.
Who owns this property, that long skinny strip between Pecan Grove and this property?
Is,
You already own that property.
is that the property that you were saying, or someone was saying, was bought for a house, but now it's gonna be, no?
It was not sold for a house. At one point, we thought
Dr. Hutchinson, will you come up to the microphone, please?
Yes, sir, I'm sorry.
I can address that.
It's gotta be
Gotta be on the
recorded.
record. Need it on the record.
So I'm sorry, I'll ask my question again so that it gets onto the record.
Okay.
So the skinny piece of property between Pecan Grove and the property that we're looking to rezone, do you own that property?
Yes.
Okay. And what was your purpose for buying that property? Was it to connect to this?
It was bought when the original Pecan Grove subdivision was developed. But there was a large drainage ditch down through that piece of property, and so it was not ideal for a building site. So we left it out of the plat, the original plat. So it, it constituted about 1.7 acres that was not a part of Pecan Grove subdivision. But I retained ownership of that. And at this point in time, it provides access to the property that we're talking about developing. And in fact, the easiest access in terms of being able to develop this residential property.
Is it your intent if it's approved and you get to put that street in there, that the rest of that skinny little property will not be developed?
That's correct.
It'll remain with all the trees in place?
Yes.
And everything?
It's a nice buffer between Pecan Grove and the new development. And it will be retained as a green space, as part of the green space of the new development.
Yeah, would you replenish the trees and the buffer that were taken out?
Yes, most of the trees and most of the buffer is still intact. In fact, the whole point of what I'm trying to do is to maintain and retain that as green space for the neighborhood. But the only trees we've had to remove are the ones that were a problem in terms of erosion and about to fall. And
Excuse
and
me, folks.
and
Let's allow the gentleman to make his remarks.
and to develop.
Thank you.
And to develop the street, the road. Now, again, some of the preliminary work on that was necessary to take the massive tree out of the ditch that I mentioned, which I would say, without question, impeded flow through that tributary of King Creek. There were two other very large trees that were dead and at risk of falling over into the ditch. And so we removed those. And as we had the dirt and the contractor available and so forth, we went ahead and pushed dirt out toward the access that we presumed we would be able to develop. So that's what they're referring to.
On that general lot that's already been cleared, I guess just a few questions. It was just an oversight that you didn't get the permit to start building and clearing that?
It was a misunderstanding. I again, two problems had to be addressed whether we developed the subdivision or not. One was to clear the excuse me, the King Creek tributary that runs through there to enhance the drainage, to clear the drainage way. The other is to stabilize the new drainage ditch that we had to bring through there. And by the way, there have been some drainage studies done. That question was raised. And I have an engineering study that I did prior to doing any of this work to help guide me in terms of what was necessary to take care of the drainage down through there without eroding the trees. And so in order to stabilize that new drainage ditch, there's got to be some riprap put in before this winter. And so that's part of what we were doing in terms of the dirt work to access that ditch.
Okay, and just two more questions, if you don't mind.
Sure.
When I think one of the speakers mentioned at the homeowners association, you brought it forward and they voted no, and you removed it. Was that just to give you time to see if there was an alternative method?
Yes,
okay.
Exactly.
And then I guess my last question, and realize that you don't have the necessary number of tree counts, but in terms of the trees that were on that lot, how many have been taken out and that would require, in your opinion, you to replenish those trees to get it back into the natural buffer that it had?
I would say, I don't know, 8, maybe 10, of varying sizes. I didn't count them. I don't really know. I have committed to re-landscape that and to provide new trees in that area along the street, and also some evergreen trees on in the buffer between the current subdivision and the proposed subdivision, and we intend to do that if we're allowed to proceed.
All right, thank you.
I have a question. I have a question. Would you rather it stay commercial if you cannot get the subdivision approved, or would you, if because there's two separate items here, is the rezoning and the subdivision.
Right.
And it's possible to rezone it, but not approve the subdivision.
Let me just say, if you saw the property, it would clarify that. It's an absolutely beautiful piece of property for residential development. Okay, it is as pretty as anything in Tupelo in terms of residential development. So it really lends itself well to an absolutely beautiful residential subdivision. And we're proposing 11 lots that would provide 11 homeowners with a building site. It is not, as Mr. Faulkner mentioned, it is not very suitable for commercial because of the access. It's very, very limited in terms of commercial access. In addition to which, if you develop it as a commercial development, you're creating even more traffic in and out of Mount Vernon Road, very close to the intersection with McCullough. So to think that with the concerns about traffic on Mount Vernon Road now, to think that it's appropriate to do a commercial development with perhaps a high-density shopping area or whatever, I don't know what it would be, but you're going to have customer traffic in and out throughout the day. As it is now, we're proposing an 11-lot residential subdivision, which would be a fraction of the traffic that you would be dealing with a commercial development. So honestly, I understand the concerns about the traffic in our subdivision street, and I'm sensitive to that. As a matter of fact, that's why I withdrew my application back in June, to study the possibility of coming out on to Mount Vernon Road with a residential development. But it's just simply, there are several issues, and not the least of which is an expense to cross that large King Creek tributary that's a huge ditch if you've been over there to see. So it's just not feasible. It's not feasible for me because I don't own the property in the first place. But it's also not feasible in terms of the financial side of it.
I understand.
And yet, what we're talking about in terms of residential development coming through that strip of land that I own onto our current street, Pecan Grove, we're talking about, we have 20 lots in that subdivision. We're adding 11 more. So at worst, you're talking about increasing the traffic on the front side of our subdivision by 50%. Now, we're not creating a through street. It's also going to be a cul-de-sac and neighborhood traffic. It's not going to be a thoroughfare, as some people have termed it. It's going to be residential traffic. And so I think the concerns about traffic, I'm sensitive to that, but we have a difference of opinion as to how much problem we think that's going to be. If you increase the traffic on the west side of our ditch by 50%, you know, that's for the city to address. But I don't think, we don't have just a huge amount of traffic on our street currently. I would say that that the the likelihood of the 4 people that I've had express interest in lots, 3 of them are single, retired, and 1 a couple retired. So I think there's a pretty good likelihood you're going to have retired people, a number of retired people who don't have children. So I've heard concerns of 5 cars per household. I don't think that's going to be the case. I don't think it's going to be the case that we'll have any heavier traffic from this development than we have already from that side of our subdivision. So, I guess we're into the discussion about the.
We were actually at the part where the city discusses its position, but we've gone ahead and.
Maybe I've gotten ahead of.
Well, we've asked
Well,
some
I
questions
kind of did
of you,
that
sir,
because I can see this forming as, to me, as really, it is 2 issues. That the rezoning, like, should it be residential? I see that. But should it be this specific site plan?
Well,
is
I need
another.
to ask, should we rezone it and bring it in compliance with what it's actually good for? That would be a question for Mr. Faulkner.
Right. So,
Well, and that's
sir,
kind of what I was gathering from him. was that it's the better use of the property is residential. But my point that I didn't make too well is that if you make it residential with the only way, there's no really way to it unless you go into this other neighborhood that's been there.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm not.
But at the moment, it's,
Just a moment, ma'am.
we're
Just a
in,
moment.
we're
I'll-
in
I'll-
our
I'll
portion
get to you
right
in
now.
just a second. Let me ask, can Dr. Hutchinson be
I
excused?
think for me,
Yes.
yeah, as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you,
yeah.
sir. I appreciate your remarks and the questions directed to you. I believe we're a little bit off script.
Uh-huh.
I understand that. And I believe.
But we're sticking with the
ma'am,
rezoning.
Yes, you are Ms. Newell? All right. If you will come up and you want to make a brief remark, we're a little bit off script, so that'll be fine. I want you to have an opportunity to say your piece. And then we'll get Mr. Faulkner back up at the podium.
In reference to access to the property, that whole section was together. He only bought half of it. He just bought from the ditch on. As far as I know, the other part is still for sale. So you could get access to it from McCullough by purchasing the other half. I mean Mount Vernon. I'm sorry, Mount Vernon, not McCullough.
Yeah, I know what you meant. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. He's saying he doesn't have access, but he didn't buy that. He didn't buy the access.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for your remarks. Any questions of Ms. Newell?
No.
Mr. Faulkner, why don't you jump back in the hot seat if you don't mind, sir?
Let me ask Scott's question a little differently. As it's zoned today, mixed-use commercial, could the developer use that same lot, cut a street through there, and then it be developed for mixed use coming through Pecan Grove? Is there anything in our zoning that would prevent that today?
You asked my question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No.
So the developer
If
could
he owned
do
the
it.
property, he could make that connection.
That's what I thought.
And it could be a understanding that we're going to address some changes to the city code later. It could be a gas station or any other commercial
Right.
development with ingress and egress on Pecan Grove.
Yeah, that would be problematic, but I think that it would be within the scope of the law.
It would bring us back to the West Tupelo situation, potentially,
Well,
where the gas station was built adjacent to.
I think this is a kind of a reach, actually, because a commercial entity is not going to go there and expect people to drive through a residential subdivision to get to it.
And
I
that's
think-
what I understand from the city, is that its commercial viability is extremely limited.
But by right, that property absolutely could do that,
As it stands now.
by right.
So that was my question. Does it need to be rezoned? Maybe not for low density residential, but does it need to be rezoned for something else? It's not viable. However, you just stated that it met all the criteria that we require as a city to do what he
For
wants to do.
residential.
Yes.
Yeah.
It would be, if, say, hypothetical, what other zoning district could you go to that's not commercial or residential? Certainly don't want to have industrial or multifamily or anything like that.
Would we be in any kind of legal situation if we did not approve it for residential, the low-density residential?
I'm not qualified for that one.
Good answer.
You do have the city attorney in the back.
Understood.
Mr. Faulkner, do you see anything that the applicant have for this land reasoning not to zone it residential?
A lot of their issues are things that are matters for the construction of the project, the drainage, the streets, those kind of things. I will say that the question about the traffic coming through the neighborhood, there are standards that say if a development is going to generate enough traffic to be a problem, then they're required to do a traffic study. It's 130 vehicle trips per day, which this project, 11 lots, does not reach that standard. So, you know, we would not require the developer even to do a traffic study on something this size.
Because of the impact of 11 homes in the subdivision does not meet the criteria.
Yes.
But it's my understanding, did something get submitted to you, a traffic study was already done?
No.
Oh, okay, I thought I heard that.
What about a drainage study that he referenced?
Well,
Is that something that was submitted?
Everybody's asking my questions today.
I'm not involved in that review, so I don't know. Normally it would be reviewed as part of the construction plans.
I'll address this question to you. I'm sorry, Pat, I cut you off.
Is that part, I'm sorry, is that part of the rezoning, or is that actually part of the subdivision?
Subdivision.
So we need to talk about that with the subdivision, not with the rezoning.
I'll just make one observation that this development is downstream from the existing subdivision. The water from this development will go the other direction. It will not go uphill.
It'll go over McCullough is what you're saying,
Right.
not backing up into the neighborhood. It goes over McCullough.
Right. The standard for engineering on a development is that they're required to maintain the stormwater that comes off that property is going to be no more and no more concentrated than it was before development. So they've got to control that stormwater on the site and not create a problem off-site with their stormwater.
Is there any part of this property currently that is not buildable?
I would say so. There's along the ditch, you would not be wanting to ditch. Those are the areas that are going to be reserved in green space because they do not need to be built in.
Is that the blue area?
It's the green area on your large map.
On the large map.
Left of the proposed street.
Okay, just really that tail.
So if we
And
turn-
then
turn
onto
it
the
back.
road. Yeah. Okay, so that skinny area that he owns, a majority of that is not buildable for a home anyway. Okay.
Could you clarify what you refer to as the skinny area?
There's this, can I answer this question?
Yes.
Okay. So
yes,
the
go ahead.
question was asked, which area I'm referring to is the skinny lot. So between Pecan Grove Drive here, here's McCullough Boulevard. There's this skinny little lot that was heavily wooded. I mean, you couldn't even see, at least when I drove a time back, you couldn't even really see. It's the skinny lot that's right here. Okay. All right, do we have other? What else are we talking about here?
Are there any other questions for Mr. Faulkner, for the staff? All right, so let me make sure I understand. There's no traffic study required because the impact of the 11 homes doesn't rise to a level to require.
Correct.
Issues regarding drainage, etc., are addressed as part of the actual development and subdivision itself. And before houses could be built, there have to be plans in place to address drainage and these other issues.
Yes.
It can't go forward unless it meets those criteria.
The drainage requirement would come into place when the applicant submitted a subdivision construction application. They can't do that until the subdivision plat is approved.
Understood. And so that would come prior to any construction.
Yes.
And it would have to meet city code and the engineering standards, and the city engineer would be responsible for making sure that it was compliant.
Yes.
And just to reiterate what I was trying to get around to, if, assuming we did not have this site plan, would you still think that this should be rezoned residential?
You could answer that question without the site plan at all. If somebody just says, I want to do this as a residential subdivision in the future.
That's where I'm coming from.
Yes.
And that's where I'm kind of at, is that it's really two completely different things. Is the best use of this property, regardless of whether we approve the site plan or not, is residential. I think the site plan and where the road goes is
Two different
is two
issues.
different issues, and
And that's what
may
I was
not
saying.
have the same agreement on, but I see where you're coming from, that the best use of the property will be residential. It's just a matter of,
Whether it's one home or 11.
or 11, or the road comes on to there,
mean-
you're forced to buy the other property to build the bridge and connect it. How that happens, that's where I was kind of coming from, is that the issue is, you know, as far as the zoning goes, I understand that.
highest and best
The best use is to be residential now. Is it this plan or not?
That's not
We
even-
can
that's
address
next.
that after we address the,
Right.
Are there any more questions for Mr. Faulkner?
I think that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
yeah.
We're shooting this over to him. It's the highest and best use for the property, rather than being mixed-use commercial corridor.
Yes, it is residential,
That's in terms of the city's overall zoning map and objectives.
yes.
Thank you, Mr. Faulkner. We're open for any committee discussion.
I think we've discussed it.
Can I make a motion?
We're ready for a motion.
I make a motion that we approve this for residential, to change the zoning to residential.
A second.
MDR, let's,
No.
LDR.
LDR.
L,
LDR. Yeah.
for the audience, LDR is low-density residential, MDR is medium-density residential. The request was for low-density residential development on that property.
LDR.
All right, motion by Ms. Mart, seconded by Ms. Hadley. All right. All in favor? Okay, the vote is unanimous.
Okay, now back to this.
Now, over to the other one.
Mr. Faulkner, could you please advise the applicant and interested parties about their options?
We'll do that at the end after the subdivision application. We'll go over
Understood.
it.
The next item on our agenda is MAJ sub 25-1, parcel 9, parcel 076Q-24-024. I have -2, is it -1? -2, I had it right. This is a request to subdivide 12.8 acres located off McCullough Boulevard and south of Pecan Grove to 11 residential lots. Mr. Newman, Mr. Faulkner, have the surrounding property owners been notified? Were there any responses?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, and yes, there were some responses. Before we get into the public comment portion of this application, I would request that we have Mr. Faulkner present the staff analysis and walk through that.
You'd like to go with the staff analysis
Yes,
first?
yes.
Does anybody have any objection to doing so? Let's go ahead with staff analysis first, and we'll go from there. Thank you, Mr. Faulkner.
Oh, that's all, I don't have that.
The code says that the preliminary plat shall be approved by the planning committee if it meets the following criteria: conforms with all the provisions and requirements of applicable adopted plans, conforms with all provisions and requirements of this code, and all other applicable codes not included, which means it's going to be subject to things like the building codes eventually. But the relevant one here is the conformity with the development code standards for subdivisions. And those are technical, so I'll have to go through those in a little bit of detail. The lots, when you develop a residential subdivision, you create lots that are expected to conform to the standards of the others of that same zoning district. Minimum lot size, low-density residential is 0.33 acres. And in the plat was revised in order to make all of the lots meet all of the necessary standards. One of the lots was not quite wide enough at the street level, and so with the revision, all of the lots meet the minimum lot width. And there is traffic impact analysis required only where more than 130 vehicle trips at peak hour are anticipated. This is really commercial level traffic that generates a traffic analysis. So there will be some traffic noticed, but it's not of the level that would be created or subject to violating the standard. Stormwater management and drainage, that is actually reviewed, as Mr. Newman noted, at the construction plan level. It's simply noted that that will be a requirement. The street right-of-way is minimum width standards, the length of the cul-de-sac. Fire department had some changes to make to the cul-de-sac so that there would be enough room and radius for the fire equipment to get in there and turn around and get back out. Sidewalks are not shown on the preliminary plat. Sidewalks are now required on subdivisions where there are existing sidewalks that can be connected to. However, that sidewalk requirement can be waived if there's nowhere for them to connect, but there is a fee in lieu of payment that has to be made in that situation. The trees in residential development is not like commercial development. Tree preservation is not required from residential subdivisions. Now, it's great, and we're all in favor of keeping every tree we can keep, but there's no one-for-one replacement required on residential subdivision. And then there is a requirement for open space that's equal to 10% of the total size of the property. In that case, it would be 1.28 acres. The plat that we've got has, I believe, 2.67 acres, something like that. Yeah.
You can't include that, though. That's not.
Those 2 points, that 1 point is the sidewalk requirement, and the payment in lieu is the only thing that we would have to deal with in terms of meeting our subdivision standards.
And what is the staff recommendation?
It's approval.
All right.
Can I ask Pat something since he's up here?
Yes, we're taking it out of sequence with the staff analysis first, so let's direct questions to Mr. Faulkner.
Okay. So Pat, we have this preliminary plat. There is no date on here, so I'm sorry I can't reference that. But it does show that there is a green area number 1. Oh, I'm sorry. It is revised 8/4 of 25. So it shows this green area number 1 up here. So
Yes.
here's Pecan Grove, McCullough's over here. So this is a different piece of property. This is not, that's a different property. When you look at the plat maps, it's a different piece of property than this. And so as a result, even though he can build a road, that's my understanding, is his property, he can build what he wants. But that can't be considered part of this subdivision, can it?
Well, Dr. Hudson controls it. I assume he intends it to be part of the subdivision. Whether he has to assemble 2 different pieces to do that, not sure that's.
So he'd have to get an attorney to replat these lots.
No.
To pull, because he's, go ahead, Tanner.
So I know where this is headed, and this is one matter that we addressed on the front end to get some clarity. So that lot that you're referring to along Pecan Grove was not platted in phase 1 or phase 2 of Pecan Grove. So that lot, as we're looking at it, is a piece of land that is not currently in a platted subdivision. So if this plan were approved, that lot would become a lot in this phase 3 of Pecan Grove.
In order to meet the green space requirement.
Regardless, he's included the lot in this plat, so it would now become part of a platted subdivision.
But it has to be replatted.
No, I mean, it would just be a lot in.
It's never been platted.
Correct.
That would be something that would be done, right now, the plat is preliminary, but when that final plat would be drawn up and taken to the courthouse to be recorded, that lot would be written into that description.
At that time.
And all of these lots exceed the requirements for the LDR.
Yes.
What about, I don't know if I'm asking this question out of turn here.
No, you're not, ma'am.
What about the mailbox situations?
Right, that is something that does have to be shown on there. It's probably not on the drawing at this point, but there are, the Postal Service has a requirement for a what they call a gang mailbox for a development now. So there'll be, need to be a place set aside for that.
All right, you made a comment about tree preservation and the survey not being required. How does our code handle that when you have developers that just go in and wipe out trees? What recourse do we have to make them replace those?
That is not a requirement of our code on residential.
Only on commercial property, which
That's right.
property was commercial.
But Pat, we could approve with a restrictive covenants to require green space, certain usage and that, could we not?
I believe so.
As a condition of approval,
Yes.
maintenance of green space.
I think I would want to look at our code because
Understood.
certain actions of this committee are considered to be discretionary. The approval of a variance, for example, or what's considered a flexible use. I don't believe that a subdivision falls under that standard. I believe that the subdivision is considered what we call ministerial. That it is just a case of yes or no. That we aren't supposed to attach conditions to that.
Understood.
But we can suggest. We can't mandate, but we can suggest.
That's right.
I think we could ask the developer if they would be willing to do something of that nature.
Understood. Any other questions for Mr. Faulkner?
I don't think so.
All right, so we're going a little bit out of order here. So what we will do now is open the meeting to the public portion of the hearing for this application. Again, please try to hold your comments to a maximum of 5 minutes. If there's anyone here who would like to make some additional remarks in light of what Mr. Faulkner has stated or would like to reiterate their position, obviously we've heard a good bit on both issues preliminarily. I want everybody to have an opportunity to say their piece, make any additional remarks that they would like in addressing this. So if anybody would like to make any remarks, well, I guess, wait a second. We have to open it up to the developer first. So if you don't mind, again, Doctor, please step up. You may have some additional remarks you may want to make. Otherwise, there may be some questions from committee members in light of Mr. Faulkner's remarks and answers to questions.
I'll be glad to answer any other questions. I've pretty much stated my intent and feeling about this property. It's, again, an opportunity to develop 11 absolutely gorgeous lots in the heart of Tupelo, and I see it as a tremendous benefit to the city to develop this property. It'd be just an awful shame not to. It's again, beautiful property right in the heart of Tupelo. Tupelo, I don't have to tell you, doesn't have just a wealth of developable residential property in the city limits, and so this is absolutely a prime location. The property lays well. there are beautiful trees on the property that we will absolutely preserve. Obviously, people will have to have a driveway and access and take a few trees out, but our effort is gonna be to preserve every tree we can. And so, we really look forward to making this a part of our subdivision, which I think will enhance it. Now, obviously, we have a difference of opinion about that, but it really will benefit the city long-term to have this property developed, and it'll certainly benefit 11 homeowners. So I'll be glad to answer any other questions.
Will this be part of your other homeowners association?
Yes, I would like to make it all a part of our Pecan Grove Homeowners Association, which will add other members and
Same
of course,
covenants
make us
and
a
such?
stronger.
Will it have the
homeowners
same
association.
covenants and such as?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it'll be the same covenant. It'll be essentially, I mean, identical in terms of the covenants, the type homes, and so forth.
Would you envision anything in the development of these lots that you could say would be detrimental to the current homeowner values coming off of Pecan Grove?
Absolutely not. I cannot imagine that it would do anything but enhance the value of our current property. Now, I'm a current property owner, so I can assure you I would not want to do anything that would that would devalue my own property.
And would you be willing to accepting some restrictive type covenant suggestions and codify that to you would abide by those in that green space?
Sure. In the green space, yes, we would like to preserve it as a green space. We have no intention in the areas designated. I think you have a plat with green space marked in those areas. We have no intention of doing any construction or any tree removal. If I understand what you're asking.
Doctor, when you mentioned the 2.4 acres approximately of green space, were you including the lot with the frontage on Pecan
Yes.
Grove as part of that calculation?
Yes.
So it would be the green area to the south, which fronts McCullough, and the green area on the north that fronts Pecan Grove.
That's correct.
That-
And there's also a thin line along the
Understood.
along the ditch, and a small area in our circle. We had planned to make a little circle, landscape a little circle instead of a cul-de-sac, just very similar.
So, is it, can you tell me what has happened with the existing trees that are on that skinny lot between this new development and Pecan Grove? Are those trees gone now?
No. Most of them are still there.
So the trees.
Well, let me add. I'm not sure what picture she's got, but about 2 years ago, I met with Dennis Bond as the city engineer because we had a tremendous erosion and drainage problem through that wooded strip. And Dennis agreed that something needed to be done. It actually turned pretty close to our street and had the potential of undermining our street. It also had undermined the root ball of several very large trees, some of which had already fallen toward the street. So something needed to be done. In order to do that, we cleaned a lot of the understory in that strip, and as best I could explain to our neighbors, that was a necessary thing, although some of them didn't understand that was necessary to reroute the drainage, fill in the old eroded drainage ditch, and to actually enhance the drainage from our neighborhood. So that's the part that has got to be stabilized with riprap, and I hope to get that done before the winter, while we still have good weather. And we'll use some of the road access that we've been working on in order to be able to do that. But yes, we had to clean a lot of the understory, maybe some of the smaller trees, but I think, I don't know of any large trees that we took out other than ones that had eroded and were at risk of falling toward our street.
What kind of landscaping are you planning on putting in to hide that riprap from the street view?
It really won't be visible, that ditch. You would have to, it would be below grade, below the surface. As you ride along that street, that riprap actually won't be visible. I suppose you might see the top edge of it, but that would be about it. The ditch is sort of through the middle of the property now. It's been kind of moved over away from the street.
And did you work with Dennis Bonds on how to divert that ditch?
I spoke with Dennis, and I consulted an engineer from Oxford to help me with that, yes. And he did a water study of the drainage of that whole part of our subdivision.
And was that approved by the city?
Dennis has that report, yes.
It has been shared, the hydrological study that you mentioned earlier, the water study has been shared with the city?
That hydrological study, yes, that through that part of our subdivision. Now, the study, of course, out of the subdivision is yet to be done by Cook Coggin and their engineering department, and that will be done when after the approval, if this is approved.
Gotcha.
Dr. Max, do you think this project could be done within that 2-year time frame?
Within
you
what?
think it could be done within 2 years of development?
I think
once getting started.
I think the street, the storm drain, sewer, water, power, all the infrastructure, yes. I don't know how many homes will be able to be constructed, but all of the heavy equipment necessary to do the road work and so forth, yes, I do. And I do have I don't know if we've mentioned, but I do have a construction easement from the waterers who own that west side of the ditch, that property out to Mount Vernon Road. I have a two-year construction easement and a temporary crossing over that ditch to use for the construction of the road and the actual subdivision itself. And I'm hoping that maybe we can use that access to construct some of the homes as well. But it's a 2-year easement that I have.
So it's your plan, what I hear you saying is that there will be a separate construction entrance off of Mount Vernon Road
Yes.
to access this, so the construction vehicles themselves will not be coming down Pound Grove.
That's correct, for a 2-year period of time.
Okay.
So I think that will help preserve our street that's been recently repaved, for one thing. And I over the years, it depends on how quickly this develops, I can't predict that, but for the construction part of the infrastructure, yes, I think it can be done in 2 years. I do.
I was just concerned that little wooden bridge wasn't gonna hold up.
You'd be surprised.
I
very
didn't wanna
large
drive down it.
a very large excavator crossed that bridge and didn't even shake.
Okay.
It's two tractor trailer beds side by side, and those are the trailers they use to haul these excavators and heavy equipment too. So, but you're welcome to drive across anytime.
Any other questions for the developer? All right. Thank you, Doctor. All right. If anyone else would like to comment, make any remarks, of course, come on up. If you've already signed in, great. Just give us your name and address again before you start your remarks.
Ryan Russell again at 1912 Pecan Grove. Mainly I want to talk about the other access road after our meeting where we took an official neighborhood vote, for not to approve this. Dr. Max took his permit out, agreed to all that when he was official president. We'll get into all that legal matter, but so at the end of that meeting, I suggested to him that if we could do another road and go out to Mount Vernon Road across the ditch, because the entire meeting he was talking about how unfeasible it was to cross that ditch. And after he said that he would not do that and pull the permit, we talked to him at that meeting that night, and a group offered to buy the property that he's using now to access Mount Vernon Road. So we had a group of 6 people that he agreed. We told him, use this money to build your bridge. That way you can use that money. The bridge will be more feasible. The neighborhood will be more feasible. That will make the neighborhood happy. That will make your road go out to Mount Vernon, and that will make us safer. So Dr. Max took the time. He agreed to sell us the property. We've got everything that he's texted us and sent us and called us, but he agreed to sell us the property. He came up with the purchase price. He said he wanted to close in 30 days. We were supposed to close last week, the first week of September, and that's when he backed out about 3 weeks before. So there was another option. The neighborhood was in agreement to buy it. We had the group to purchase it, and we're going to deed it back to the neighborhood association to keep that as a green space, to give him money towards his bridge to build it out the other way. So there was another option. Dr. Max came up with the purchase price himself and agreed to sell it. So, saying there's not another option, there was another option. And obviously, after sitting through this meeting, now I know that he was obviously advised to only buy that portion and not buy the other portion, so he would have the legal right to cross his lot. And that's why he not sold it to us. So he was obviously advised very good by somebody not to buy the Mount Vernon side, to go out there, even though we didn't set a purchase price. He came up with his own purchase price. He could have said he'd sell it for $100,000 to $400,000 to build his bridge or do whatever, and he came up with a purchase price himself. He agreed, and he reneged on it. So there was another option, and that was all done, by Dr. Max. So. And the trees and there's tons of trees back there, and that bridge is holding excavators, and it hauled out, however many acres of trees out of there. So that's a sturdy bridge. It will be a beautiful entrance into and out of there, but that was an option. To say something that it was not an option, we didn't come up with a purchase price. Dr. Max did, so that would have carried out to the road. None of us would be here today if that would have gone through, and that was an agreement. So anything else to say that was, not right and untrue. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Dr. Russell?
Melinda McElroy. Well, I think we have a disagreement on what 6 trees looks like. I want to show y'all this picture.
Yes, ma'am. I wanted to see the picture too.
Pre and after how it looks now. This is the entrance, those 2 lots. This is how it looks now. It's right across from the Newell's house. the high points that I want to address are in our covenants, phase 2 is only mentioned, phase 1, phase 2. It's assumed the current phase is phase 1. Phase 2 is mentioned. The newels are part of phase 2. That's been completed. This new extension would have to be phase 3. That's not addressed in our covenants. There's nothing that says that we will adopt any part of this new extension. It's just assumed by our former president of the HOA that will be part of our covenant and part of our subdivision. We are happy for the expansion as long as the ridge that backs up to several homes, that the drainage is addressed in those particular areas, and with the Town Creek drainage for the subdivision to proceed if it would exit on the already approved Rusty Waterer Rip Rock Road that runs on the side of the Nance Dental Clinic. It's difficult to hear things that just don't appear so. So just give me a minute to get, it's upsetting. But we voted, we were called to a formal HOA. We voted, as per our covenants, it says that 2/3 of the members present must vote for what is proposed to carry. The vote carried that we would not accept a road onto our current Pecan Grove Road. That would involve the 2 lots, and that's what I showed you a picture of. It's a part of one of those roads. And that we should have been in the process of having that written and adopted as part of our covenants. And will be our next step. But we took Dr. Max at his word that would not happen. And in that time that we relaxed our hearts and souls, because every person that lives on that street earned, I don't mean to get emotional, but we earned the money that paid for those houses. I'm sorry. Anyway, it's not just a house, it's our future, it's our history. And it's just upsetting to be bulldozed and bullied and to have laws twisted and turned for someone that just wants a second house, But anyway, I'm sorry to be so emotional, but that's not 6 trees. That's thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Jackie Newell, 1792 Pecan Grove. I just want to reiterate, since we're in this second portion of the thing, that there's a Max Hutchinson who was president of our HOA, and there's a Max Hutchinson who's the developer. And he sent out this email, and he asked us for a vote to add what you're calling the thin strip to our neighborhood. And it says in here that he will amend the plat to include the lot. We voted for that. So the president of our HOA should have added that to the plot when our neighborhood, and it says in our covenant 70% vote of the neighborhood for something to happen. And we voted for that to be added, and he did not do it. So we wouldn't be having this conversation if that had been added like we voted for. So you said there wasn't an access other than that. Well, that's supposed to be part of our neighborhood plat.
I may be wrong, but I don't think we have a say on on any covenants. Am I right?
That's correct.
We do
Yeah.
not. That is, the homeowners association can say whatever it wants to say with respect to development outside of what is specifically covered within the HOA.
Well, I guess the question is, it would be in the plat of Pecan Grove 2, not discussion about Pecan Grove 3. Am I wrong about that?
I don't know, because I don't know the specifics of how you have your neighborhood association organized and what constitutes phases 1, 2, or presumably 3. What I will say is that this is a property owner with property not subject to the HOA. Whether or not that property ever ultimately becomes part of the HOA,
But
this is
he
approved
asked
or
us
not.
to vote on it. He asked us. We
Understood,
did.
and I can't speak to why he did or didn't. But I don't know that that creates anything binding now, and I'm not saying one way or the other.
It just is a character issue, is that what you're saying?
I'm not suggesting one way or the other. You can certainly view it as you deem appropriate.
Okay.
Now, I have a question. How many homes are in the neighborhood?
Our current neighborhood,
Yeah, how many homes are in there?
20.
20 homes. Okay.
So this is straight across the street from me where this entrance is. And so you say the traffic study, it isn't much, 11 homes. Well, we only have 20. It's more than half of what we have right now. And that's why we purchased on this street, because it's just, we're near the trace, it's wooded. We bought there for a specific reason. Any other questions?
No, I was just curious about how many homes. So,
Yeah, it's, over half
yeah,
of the
no. I live on a cul-de-sac too, so I understand.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to just make a note that the decision before the planning committee tonight is a recommendation to the city council. And so after this hearing, there will be a second hearing before the city council to consider this matter. If you received a notification of this public hearing, you will receive that notification as well. Depending on what the committee decides tonight, I suspect the city council would probably take this matter up at the first or second meeting in October, probably the second meeting. But you will be.
I'm sorry, ma'am.
Tanner,
With the
I have a
staff-
question for you. So 20 homes, adding 11 more. At what's the number that requires 2 entrances to the neighborhood?
30.
So this won't work.
That's something that does need to be addressed. If there are 20, then.
If there's 20 homes and you're adding 11, we can't approve this.
Well, I will say, I know there was some conversation, I'll let Dr. Hutchinson speak for himself on this, but I understand that he and the fire marshals have had this conversation, and if he would like to speak to that conversation, you're certainly welcome to.
Yes,
I think you need to speak.
Yep.
we discussed this with the fire marshal, and they have given their approval to one lot beyond the 30, number 30. So they are in agreement that this meets their code. So we have their approval. So that's all I can tell you is that the number 30 is a fire code restriction.
Yes, and we've had.
It's somewhat arbitrary, by the way.
Well, it is, but we've had neighborhoods that we've looked at plans that had to have had 2 entrances. I know y'all have, this has come up before, that in the past would not, because that has changed it. Somewhere down the road that I live in Ridgeway, there's 100-something homes and only one way in and out, and that couldn't be done today. And so this has come up before, that having to have 2 entrances, and if it's over, then that, if it's over, it's over, but.
That's a good discretion of the committee.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Well, I might mention that 2 of our homes in our neighborhood have access from Clayton Road, but so that may be part of his decision as far as the recommendation. but I think he has recommended to the planning staff that this, you know, be approved from a fire marshal standpoint.
All right, I'm gonna direct the question to staff when we get to